The CEOs of Facebook and Twitter facing off with Congress virtually for the second time in a month, addressing concerns about the election and anti-conservative bias. Section 230, a hot topic once again. It's a law that protects social media platforms from being held liable for what their users post. This morning, Senate Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham said it should be overhauled.
Section 230 basically allows social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook to pass on information without legal liability. We got to find a way to make sure that when Twitter and Facebook make a decision about what's reliable and what's not, what to keep up and what to take down, that there's transparency in the system. And I think Section 230 has to be changed.
NBC News business and technology correspondent Jolene Kent here now. Joe, tell us more about Senate Republicans' argument against Section 230 and how Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey are responding to it.
Yeah, so Republicans want an update of the policy, and to be fair, so do the Democrats as well, but they want different things. The Republicans want protections over conservative speech, which they believe has been censored and has been limited and quashed, so to speak, while the Democrats want Section 230 to be updated so it covers more misinformation, disinformation issues that all of these platforms clearly have had for many, many years now. So both of the companies, both Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg, they agree, they think that there needs to be an update of Section 230 as well. They welcome it, but their differences are kind of in the minutia of how it ought to be handled. But again, as we've reported so many times here, Allison, there isn't necessarily like a political will or an ability right now to actually push this through. So that's why I found it so interesting that both Chairman Graham and Ranking Member Blumenthal both said at the end of this hearing, this is just the beginning. You're going to be hearing from us a lot more, and they're hoping to haul them back to kind of hash this stuff out.
Looks like we may have several more of these virtual get-togethers, if you will, Joe. Yeah. I want to bring up Senator Ted Cruz. He was grilling Jack Dorsey today about blocking the New York Post's account when the Post published that unsubstantiated story about Hunter Biden. Twitter then unblocked the Post's account after about 2 weeks. Here's some of their exchange.
Let me ask you, was Twitter being a publisher when it censored the New York Post?
No, we have very clear policies on the conduct we enable on the platform. And if there's a violation, we take an enforcement action, and people choose to commit to those policies and to those terms of service.
Except your policies are applied in a partisan and selective manner. You claim it was hacked materials, and yet you didn't block the distribution of the New York Times story that alleged to talk about President Trump's tax returns, even though a federal statute makes it a crime to distribute someone's tax returns without their consent. You didn't block any of that discussion, did you?
Joe, what else did Dorsey say here? And did he give any indication of how Twitter might handle something like this differently in the future?
Yeah, and the New York Post story regarding that specific handling of that situation, he said that Twitter made a mistake and that, they were trying to fix what had gone wrong there in their eyes. And so basically, the concern, the overarching concern about anti-conservative bias at these social media companies also came up in the way that they hire people. Both Dorsey and Zuckerberg pressed on the fact that their companies do not reflect the values in the eyes of certain senators of Americans across the country, rather than it's just a tiny little cross-section of people that control and have all of this power over our social media. And both CEOs pushed back saying, that is not the case. It does not impact how they create policy, implement policy, and impact the feeds that you're scrolling through here. But that issue very much permeated every single topic from both sides, frankly, when it comes to figuring out what these companies should have the power to do or not. But again, there was no indication that there's going to be concrete steps taken to regulate these companies in any serious way as of now, Allison.
Yeah, it just seems like such a complex problem we're having trouble figuring out how to deal with here. Joe, the social media giants were blamed for spreading a lot of misinformation during the 2016 election. What did Zuckerberg and Dorsey say about how Facebook and Twitter did this time around in 2020?
They opened their remarks before the Senate Judiciary Committee very much talking about what they had done during and in the lead up to the election. And then a lot of the fireworks really came, Allison, when they started talking about what was done afterwards. Several senators, especially on the Republican side, brought up the fact that many of the tweets and posts posted by President Trump have been flagged or have been labeled. And what was interesting is there was this really fascinating exchange with Senator Dianne Feinstein, where she asked, does it even matter how much does it matter if you label a post or a tweet? Is that enough to actually, counterbalance what may not be factual or what is the controversy inside the content of the president's tweets? And so that back and forth was really fascinating. Another thing is that Zuckerberg and Dorsey both confirmed that President Trump will lose his special privileges when it comes to posting things that are controversial. He won't have that exception of being newsworthy once he leaves office come January. And so you will see perhaps a very different handling of the outgoing president's content going forward from both of these CEOs.
Yeah, a lot of people curious to see exactly what that means come January. Joe, it was an interesting virtual day on Capitol Hill. Thanks so much for getting us up to speed.
Sure was. No problem.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.